Item 4 on our agenda calls for patron participation, and I'm going to ask that if your comments are related to the agenda items, you have a board where you can see, you can submit your paperwork, but if your comments are geared toward the community forum, I'm going to ask that you reserve your comments until that time. Do we have any patrons that would like to speak before the board on the business that's on our agenda? Thank you. We will move forward. At this time, we're going to call item 5, which is reports.
I have a report.
Thank you.
It's a lot of dates. On May 14th, members of the Riverview Gardens administrative staff participated in the cleanup of Castle Point. It was really a nice event. It is my hope that something like that can happen on a regular basis. On May the 17th, members of the administration and Ms. Maria traveled to Jefferson City and made a presentation to the State Board of Education as it relates to the progress being made by our school district. On the 24th, as Dr. Alvon Elliott mentioned, that's today. Today I had the opportunity of attending the pinning of the 8th graders here at Westview Middle School. It was a really nice event, and Congresswoman Cori Bush was the speaker, and it was really invigorating, her message. Also on tonight, we will have a public hearing sponsored by the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock is the Alternative School ACES graduation that will be held at Central Middle School. On the 24th, we will also have Central Middle School will have their graduation. I think it's, no, Westview will have theirs tomorrow. It's a drive-through. It is at 5:30. On the 25th, we will have Central Middle School's promotion at 2 o'clock. And then on the evening of the 26th is the high school graduation. It will be at the University of Missouri St. Louis. It begins at 6 o'clock. All board members, you should have received your packet that tells you to get there early. This Friday is the last day of school. That's sad. And it's also, the central administration is sponsoring a faculty and staff appreciation that will be held at Central Middle School. And I would be remiss if I did not ask that we do a moment of silence. There was a elementary school shooting today in Texas. 14 young people lost their lives and a teacher. So if we could just do a moment of silence. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item 6, items for information.
Our first item is the Riverview Gardens COVID protocols update for scholars and staff. As indicated, this item is for information. There is no action to be taken at this time. Making the presentation is Dr. Tanya Patton, Assistant Superintendent for Students, Schools, Community Support.
Good evening, SAB members, Dr. Geraldine, colleagues, and community. As Dr. Geraldine shared, tonight I bring before you the COVID-19 protocols. We bring this forth every 30 days. As you know, the CDC has recommended the removal of masks in schools, and so we have kept up with that recommendation. However, I do want to mention that over the past few months, as this has been presented, our humidity levels were low. It's down in the medium range, and so upon talking to the CDC as well as the health department, they are still saying that we do not have to wear masks. However, if we move into the high, and as you know, it's starting to increase again, we will move into a mask mandate within our school district. So what I'm sharing is from this moment forth, we are in the medium. We will not wear our mask, but if during summer school we move to the high, we will invoke the mask mandate. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
The next item, item 7 for discussion. is proposed 2022 pilot summer work hours. This item was presented at the last Board of Education meeting. However, in talking with supervisors, the item has changed a bit. The change is that 12-month employees, that includes Secretary 2, 3, and admin assistants and all other administrators will use the reflect summer hours except for assistant principals because they are 11th month, school service directors at the building level, and maintenance and custodial by virtue of the work that they have to do. This item we're asking for approval tonight so that it can go into play. It was brought forward at the last meeting. Any questions?
Thank you.
The next item is item 7B, regards memorandum of understanding. Memorandums of understanding of Jobs for America, JAG graduates. This item is being brought forward for approval at the close of this meeting. And it is in concert with the grant. It is in compliance with CSIP's Goal 1, effective teaching and learning, and there is no district policy attached to this. Making this presentation is Ms. Patton and Dr. Nag, Ms. Nag.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, colleagues, and community. This evening, I come before you to present an amendment to an existing memorandum of understanding with Missouri Department of Social Services for additional funding in association with our Jobs for America's Graduates program at the high school. The amendment to the MOU will increase the funding for the JAG program by $5,000 from $25,000 to $30,000 for the 21-22 school year. The high school is recommending that the Special Administrative Board approve our request to accept the amendment for additional funds in the amount of $5,000 from the Missouri Department of Social Services to be used to cover the costs associated with the JAG program at the high school. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
The next item, item 7C, is the 22-23 calendar revisions. Making this presentation is Ms. Monica Williams, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources and Title IX Coordinator. At the conclusion of her presentation, it is recommended that the Special Administrative Board approve the revised 22-23 calendar, making August 12, 2022 a teacher workday and August 19, 2022 a professional day.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board. I'm sorry, before you
Go ahead.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, colleagues, and community. Tonight I will be presenting an item for discussion, the 22-23 calendar revision. This item, the calendar is needing to be revised because we had a collective bargaining agreement where the number of teacher contracted days were lowered, so it went from 190 to 180 days. So we had to go back to the calendar and find 2 more days to take off of the teacher's work year. And then also, we needed to switch around active shooter training, which is required. And the only date we could get the vendor to come in is August 19th, which was a teacher work day. So we made that a professional development day, and August 12th, now a teacher work day. So we had to switch a few days around. So that is the rationale for the recommended changes for the calendar.
Questions? Is your hand on the slide? No. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. The next item is item 7D, fiscal year 21-22, audit proposal for Daniel Jones and Associates. Making this presentation is Dr. LaVon Singleton, Assistant Superintendent for Finance, CFO, sorry. At the conclusion of the presentation, it is recommended that the SAB accept the audit proposal submitted by Daniel Jones and Associates for the fiscal year 21-22, and then we will ask for an approval later in this meeting. This item is in compliance with DIE audits and DIE administrative procedure audit process. Dr. Singleton.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, colleagues, and community. Tonight I will present the 21-22 audit proposal from Daniel Jones and Associates. As you are well aware, at the last SAB meeting, I stood before you and shared with you that our current auditors, KEB, did not have the capacity to perform the current fiscal year audit, and therefore they sent us a letter of decline for the audit. I'm very happy to report that right after that meeting, the superintendent and myself and my staff, the finance team, got on the horn, and one of the first vendors that we met with was Daniel Jones and Associates. They do audit proposals, they do presentations, and conduct the audit for Rittner and several other school districts local in this area. They did bring forth a one-year proposal that is presented here for discussion. The audit proposal amounts to, the audit is an annual requirement, and so we know that it is extremely important that we have an audit to take place. We have a qualified auditor that's willing to do our audit at a cost not to exceed $46,065. This amount has been budgeted in the FY22, FY23 budget, and we are recommending that the SAB accept this proposal and also later in the meeting for action as well. Are there any questions for me at this time?
Madam Chair, where is that amount compared to last year?
The audit, we typically budget about $43,000, so it's very competitive, especially for this vendor to not, to come and do us at the last minute. So it's extremely competitive.
And I do want to commend you because at our last meeting, you were very confident that you would find somebody to get this audit, and you didn't do that. Well, actually, how you did it, but you did it, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Madam President, I had a question.
Yes.
Will there be a need for the previous auditor to collaborate at all with the current one for previous information or any type of transition? Just curious.
So not really, I don't believe. And if there has to be some collaboration, then certainly those channels of communication are open. But we generally provide the auditors all of the documents from our system, our ledger, and so I really don't see any reason. We do have copies of last year's audit as well, but certainly if there comes an opportunity where the two of them need to speak, then I think it wouldn't be any problem with us reaching out.
And this is the first change in how many years?
Yes, our current auditors, KEB, had been doing our audit at least since 2007, I believe. So we're talking about 15 years. And so it's good to get a new set of eyes. And so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Don't sit down. Our next item is 7E, Summary of the Fund Balance Report for the month ending April 30th, 2022. Also making this presentation is Dr. Levon Singleton, CFO, and this is in compliance with District Policy DIAA, Fund Balance.
All right, thank you again, Dr. Pruitt-Adams. This is typically where I have fun. I'd like to look at the numbers, and so if we start on the first page of the Summary of Fund Balance Report, it really gives a 10-month synopsis of where we are in our school district. As of April 30th, I think we're in a very good financial position. You see the funds there on the left column: general, teachers, debt service, capital projects, and food service. We started the year with $19 million. So far this year, we've collected about $57 million and only spent about $54 million, which will improve our ending fund balance to the tune of $21 million. Again, the negative that you see there, it will be taken care of at the end of the fiscal year because the SAB has already approved a budget transfer. We will probably bring to the SAB at next month's meeting an additional amount to transfer because we bought a lot of capital this year, okay? And we capitalize our assets at $1,000. So a number of computers, a number of equipment for ESSER-related, those items were purchased, and so we will ask that this amount be amended at the next meeting so that we don't have a negative fund balance in capital projects. The next page looks at the grant expenditures, and we can look at those columns again. I like to focus on the second column. The revised budget showed about $22 million. We've got $3 million, $3.6 million encumbered. We've actually spent about $8 million, so we've got about $10 million left in grant expenditures. Keep in mind that's as of the end of April. We've been doing a lot of spending, a lot of paying down our bills, and so we certainly expect to expend those grant funds down at this time. The next page talks about the grant revenues. Again, if we look at the second column, the $29 million, we've got $8 million in receipts and $20 million still outstanding. So that just tells us that we've got a lot of money to be reimbursed, and we're going to be going after those funds here very, very quickly. The next page talks about the revenues for the 10 months, and it looks at each of those expenditures by fund. So we see that the top two categories, the general fund and teachers fund, that's where the overwhelming majority of our expenditures come from. So we see the budgets and the actual expenditures in those columns, and then we see the monies that's to be outstanding and to be collected at this point. Moving on to the next page, page 5, looks at the expenditures for the same period of time. And again, it looks at what we spend by fund. Our least restricted fund is our general fund, and then our teachers fund. Salary and benefits, as you see listed there, are the only things that generally come out of the teachers fund. And we keep account of the debt that we have outstanding as well. So that really gives you an idea of where the expenditures are going by fund. The last two pages look at, it's annualized. So we look at April 30th of 2020, 21, and 22, the current year, and just kind of look at the trends to see where our money has gone. So again, under the revenue column, we see by fund that from 2020 to 2022, we have spent a little bit more money, but it's been pretty much consistent. And again, the increase here in the general fund has to do with some ESSER projects and the increase in some additional federal revenues as well. If we look at the teachers fund, we see that we're very consistent, about $21 million across the board in revenues, and then debt service. And again, as we continue to pay down our debt, we see that those numbers will improve as well. The final page looks at the expenditures through April the 30th. And again, what we see is consistency. So in 2020, from 2020 to 2022, 19 million to 23 million. And again, the increase there is the additional salaries that the board approved, the increase in salaries for our staff and our employees. In the teachers fund, in the general fund, again, we see some increases as well for those staff members who are not paid out of the teachers fund. We see our debt is pretty consistent. We have not issued any new bonds. So at this point, everything looks to be consistent. That concludes the summary of fund balance report for April the 30th. Are there any questions for me at this time?
Okay. I didn't get a chance to ask this, but we talked about the audit findings. The goal is not to have the same with the new company. So can you provide an update at the next meeting, the status of where we are with the audit findings from the previous report to see if we're making those?
So we will not have even, we will just be starting to get the information to the auditors. So there's not much of an update to provide at the next meeting. Audit season generally goes from about May or June through December.
I'm talking from the previous one.
Okay.
Yeah, from the findings from the previous audit.
Okay.
An update on us making those corrections.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, all right. I'll share some information. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is summer security work for June of 2022. Making this presentation is Dr. Tanya Patton, Assistant Superintendent for Student Services. This item is in compliance with CSIP's goal, collaborative cultures, and policy ECA, buildings and ground security. At the conclusion of this presentation, we would recommend that the SAB approve the district safety officers, DSO, to provide security for summer programs for June 2022, not to exceed $40,000. Dr. Patton.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan. First of all, Tracy Nave, I apologize, I was standing all in your space. I thought I was up next, but I had your back, Tracy Nave. As Dr. Jordan mentioned, I bring before you the summer security hours for June 2022. Several of our buildings will have summer programs from reading, math, band camp, summer sports programs, etc. And we want to ensure the safety of our students and staff. So we are asking the board to discuss and take action on providing summer security for June 2022. Next month, I will bring it for July 2022. Is there a budget impact? Yes, it will be approximately $40,000, and it will be embedded in the DSO salary line item for 21-22. It is recommended that the SMB approve it. Are there any questions?
Question. Yes. Have the officers already been identified? Do they have to apply? What's the process for that?
So, Dr. Miranda, we have 13 programs. What we were going to do is, if more than 13 applied, we would interview, but we had just enough that applied. There are two spaces where there will be more than one. So actually, we had 15 apply we have 13 schools, but 2 of them at the middle school, and so we need 2 of them there as opposed to just one. Okay, thank you.
Additional questions?
Our next item is the emergency item. It's called Summer Program Compensation Increase, and we're bringing this item forward today. Making this presentation is Ms. Monica Williams, and this was done in collaboration with Dr. LaVon Singleton and myself. At the conclusion of the presentation, it is recommended that the Special Administrative Board approve a summer school compensation for a summer school administrator at $70 per hour, teachers at $50 per hour, and double the hourly pay rate for support staff. Recommendation is being brought forward for presentation and approval tonight. And this is to address our teacher shortage.
I bring the item for discussion. The background information is that recently DESE has informed the Riverview Gardens that we have received an increase in our summer school staffing allocation by a little over $1 million. And with that being the case, we were given guidance that we could use some of those funds for salaries. We've also consulted with our legal team, and there are no laws preventing us from increasing summer school salaries. We are very short on summer school staff right now, and we believe it's due to not being able to offer competitive salaries. So for example, our teacher's salary for summer school, we were offering $25 an hour. St. Louis Public Schools offering $40, Rittner $40, Normandy $35, Ferguson Florissant $35, Pattonville $31.47, Hazelwood $30, Jennings $30, Maplewood Richmond Heights $30, Webster Groves $29, and University City $28. So you can see with the $25, we were way below what other districts were offering for their summer staff. And so we believe that in order to have an efficient summer school program, which now we do not have enough staff to even run a summer school program, that we would like to propose an increase in the salaries for summer school facilitator. We don't have one right now, from $35 to $70 an hour. Summer school teachers from $25 to $50 an hour, and support staff to double their hourly rate.
Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
After 24 years, yes, thank you.
That concludes the items for discussion.
I am now seeking on item 8 on the agenda, approval of the consent agenda items.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposers? Thank you. The next item is item 10, which is items for action. Remember, please, that we have included item 7G, the emergency item, and that we are, I think we're removing the one about the paper.
That is correct.
Correct, okay. May I have a motion for item A, which is the proposed 2022 pilot summer work hours?
So move.
Second.
And moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We will now move to item B, which is Riverview Gardens High School 21-22 amendment to memorandum of understanding for the JAG program. May I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any questions?
Thank you again.
We will now move to item C, which is summer security hours, June 2022. May I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Been moved in second, or there, may I have, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any questions? We will now move to item D, which is the audit proposal. The audit proposal for Daniel Jones and Associates.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any questions? We will now go to item 7G, which is the emergency item. I have a motion.
So move.
Second.
Been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
At this time, I'm going to turn our meeting over to Dr. Joy Lynn for item number 11, new board member oath of office.
I would like to ask Mr. Tommy Horsley and Mr. Shannon Holt to please come down front. I'm going to have you repeat the oath of office after me. I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand. And I'll say I, and then you say your name. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
That I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri.
and that I will faithfully and impartially
That I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of the school director in and for the school district of Riverview Gardens.
discharge
The duties of the school director in and for the school district of Riverview Gardens in the county of St. Louis,
in the county of St.
in
Louis,
the state of Missouri,
in the state of Missouri,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
according to law.
according to law.
Congratulations, gentlemen, you are now officially members of the Riverview Gardens Board of Education. You will officially be seated for your first meeting on June the 14th. Between now and then, you will have an opportunity to work with myself and Ms. Shea Fields, who's not here today, to get you orientated with board docs and all of that. Okay? And if either one of you would like to say a few words, you have the opportunity to use the mic. You don't want to say anything?
Just to approve tonight, but the church say amen. We have the opportunity to serve, and we look forward to doing all we can to do to make the district even better. So thank you for the opportunity.
I feel the same way. I thank you for the opportunity. I thank you for accepting me. I will do my best to make sure that there's a new view on the horizon.
That concludes all the items on today's agenda.
Thank you. And with no further business to discuss, we will look at item 12, which is adjournment. May I have a motion to
So
adjourn?
move.
Second.
Motion.
A public hearing sponsored by the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed is in the cafeteria. We ask that those of you who are joining that meeting, there is a table where you will need to sign in.
Thank you. May I have a motion for adjournment?
So move.
We need the vote.
We did already, okay. We are adjourned.
They got to vote.
Oh, we got to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's go.